they get to ask these questions, but first one, you know, how many hip replacements have you had?
Oh, God. I've had 7.
I literally thought the answer was 2. You've had 7?
7.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
And that's not because of, partially because of what I've done, but I got a hold of a bad doctor down the line, and we had to go through a whole bunch more because he didn't do a good enough job. So we
Right, I know,
had to redoing,
but a big part of this, the whole thing is started by what you've done. And you're,
well,
anyway, let's get some questions. Go ahead right there. I'll come to you afterwards.
Hi. I have a question about when you were talking with the director, Steven Spielberg. Does he ask a lot of questions when he talks with his different departments? Like, who led the conversations a lot when you were talking with him? Was it you or was it Steven?
The question was, did Spielberg or Terry lead those conversations? Basically, I think, like, did Spielberg defer to the stunt guys completely on stunt issues? Or a mix?
all I can say is Steven is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw that in this movie. When's the last time you saw a movie that's good? I mean, I haven't seen it for a long time. But George with his company, we bat ideas around. And to answer that question, I'll be real quick. We did a thing called 1941, and with Belushi and Aykroyd, and it was a battle, a fight in the USO Club. And Steven went out. We went to the back lot at Warner Brothers, and we were going to come up with about. We figured we'd come up with 20 sight gags for comedy. So Steven tells Kathleen, I'm going to the back lot with Terry, we're going to talk it over, and we're going to talk the fight over. Didn't want any phone calls, didn't want anything at all. We went to the back lot, and we came up with ideas, and batted them off each other, and laughed like a couple of little kids. When we came up, and obviously we didn't have the budget nor the time to do all of them, but a few of them survived. And he listens, and he contributes. Nobody really dominates the conversation, no. You don't go in there and say, well, Steven, I think we ought to do this. You don't do that. You go say, what do you think of this? So, and you try and do that with every director. But Steven, I'll tell you what, he's...
Let me follow it up real quick. Are there directors there must be directors who are better with stuntmen than others. So there's some who try to speed you guys along and aren't as concerned about safety as they should be?
And it's not their fault. They're just not aware. To answer that question, when I direct the second unit, when I have my meeting with everybody that heads the departments in the first big meeting, I tell everybody I don't want to see anybody looking at their watch. And this is kind of in jest, but I got a thing about when they do this. And I've been packed out of a couple of wrecks that everybody was doing that, and I said, hell, let's go. And it worked against me. So I have a thing about looking at watches. And there are a lot of directors that are concerned about the time that it takes. And I haven't really had a problem with directors as a stunt coordinator, stunt man, or second unit director, where they've been so insistent, like everybody would like to think that the good guy, bad guy, the director, the mean director, puts the stunt guy in harm's way. You put yourself in harm's way more than the director does. So I don't think there's any problem. I haven't had, I've worked with some directors that were insensitive to it, but not really. They're all pretty aware.
Right down here.
Thank you. From your perspective, how have you seen changes to the stunt business and the craft from the studio system demise to the current kind of independent, large-scale production efforts?
The emergence of computer-generated images has put a big dent in the stunt community. When you look at what the guys have done from the 20s, even back earlier, to the comparison of what is done now, the stuff they did years ago was real. And the computer-generated images, you lead in with a part. A shot usually consists of 3 parts: the beginning, the middle, and the end. And you'll lead in with a piece of business, and computers take over, if I may be so simplistic. And then the tag is the stunt guy at the end. There's always a chunk in the middle that has become predominant in motion picture production. I remember when we were doing wire work back when I first started in the business, and you had to light it correctly so you didn't see the cable, the safety cable, whatever you're using with a cable. And now it's just a throwaway. You can shoot a whole movie in downtown Los Angeles and say, we'll fix it in post and make it look like a Western. So it's aided in the sloppiness of making films, because you'll always fix it in post. And back in the day, and way before myself, it had to be done right, and they'd have cable. You put a safety cable on a guy, and you see it. They said, don't worry about it, we'll fix it in post. But back in the day, you had to light it properly, paint the cable correctly so it blended in the background. It was a more real involvement than now. It's aided in sloppy filmmaking.
It's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put it. Do we have a question over here on this side? I thought I saw something here. All right, who's next? Go ahead. You already asked one.
Well back there, I can barely see you.
Yeah, right there. Go ahead, fire away.
What's your favorite movie?
Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie?
Yeah.
Wow, I've got so many of them. I don't have a favorite movie. But,
Is this the best movie you do stunt work in?
pardon?
Is this the best movie you do stunt work in?
Well, this ranks up there.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I don't have a really favorite movie that I worked in or overall.
Either one.
You know, I can't answer that.
Let me ask you a question, because we saw it in the clip in the beginning, Romancing the Stone. You mentioned hiding the cable, and you jump out of a car, doubling for Michael Douglas, going over a waterfall. And again, there's no trickery. You jumped out of a car, going over a waterfall, right?
That was real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And I'll tell you a quick story. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
I'll tell you a quick story about that little deal. I hope you guys aren't double parked. When I get a little of that who hit John in me, you really get the stories. But they wanted to do that CG, and they wanted to go down to Brazil and shoot it on a waterfall and then draw it in, computer-wise, right? I'm being oversimplistic. And I said, well, I know of a waterfall in Durango, Mexico, that I wanted to take a horse off of there on a number of pictures. Again, not to hurt him, put him on a slide, cover his belly, the whole thing. But back in the day, I want to take a horse off of there. I said, I know where this waterfall is. Well, let's go look at it. They wanted to go to a 190-foot waterfall down in Brazil somewhere, and that would not have looked real. If they'd CG'd that, it would suspend belief, and you say, oh, come on. So we went up there and looked at it, and since the time I'd worked out there with Wayne on somebody with pictures and Richard Harris and all that in Durango, they had put a dam on that river that leads into this waterfall. No water. So they made a deal with the guys that ran the dam to open the sluiceways to run the water down for a day, and then we get enough water to make it look like a waterfall. Well, we go back to Mexico City, we finish down there, we go to Durango to do the movie, and we fly into Durango Airport, and I'm looking out the window and I see all these cornfields flooded. And I know what that means in Durango. And when we went out to look at the waterfall, there was so much water coming off of there. I looked at Vince Dedrick, who doubled Kathleen Turner, and I said, Vince, you still want to go off of this thing? He said, yeah. He's a young stunt guy, wanted to make his moan. Listen, I was hoping he'd say no. But,
Why was that a problem?
well, pardon?
Why was that a problem that it had rained
There's so much water going off of there. And to get the car in the river and do that, I had to build a ramp. I'll make this real quick, so that car would have gone off into the waterfall and be hidden, because there's so much water going off of there. So I wanted the car to shoot out in front of the waterfall so that the cameras would see it. If it got buried in the water, shot means nothing. So we put the car on a ramp, 18-foot ramp, and we broke, when we got out of the car to go off of it, we put a trip on it and tripped the car, and off we went. And I envisioned myself doing a Greg Louganis coming off there. I was going to make Michael Douglas look like, man, I wasn't going to hit in the impact zone. I was going to sail out there. I had this all dialed in mentally. So
How far was the drop?
it was 80 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't 90.
Oh, it wasn't 90?
In the saloon, if I'm talking to my buddies in the saloon, oh, yeah, it was 110 feet, but no, it was a solid 80, and so we put the car, we put sandbags in the back because I didn't want that car to nose dive into that waterfall and get hidden. So we suspended a ramp with a cable between the rocks. And the rigging on this thing was incredible, and that's a whole other story. But when I told Vince, you got to get off this thing early. Don't be a hero. Don't delay. Well, I'm going to push off and make my dive to get this.
How'd you get out of the car? Through the,
Well, they do a shot with Kathleen and Michael prior to that.
through the roof?
Yeah, they got a sunroof in it.
Okay.
He was in that sunroof a long time. So we put the car on this ramp, and the front of the ramp is suspended by a cable. I hung it just a little too long, and when we went over that ramp to get it out over the front of the waterfall, 8 inches of slack pulled out of that cable. I'd give or take 5, 6, 8 inches of slack. So as I'm getting ready to push off, I don't know, you guys are divers in here, but when you do your hurdle step on a 3-meter springboard, if you miss the hurdle step, you go straight down. If you miss the edge of the board, it's just like this. I was ready to push off, and that car dropped. My little takeoff platform that we had in there dropped just enough for me to fall with the car. And the thing that went through my mind as I was going down, this little platform that we had made out of a piece of 4-inch channel iron welded on the side of the frame, it was sticking out about maybe 2 feet. And I said, if that car hits first and I hit on that, it's going to cut me in half. I got to get away from the car. So I instinctively kind of pushed away from the car and got enough away from that because that car's going to go and stick just for a moment, and then I'm going to hit that takeoff platform. So the thing that killed that shot for me, to keep him looking like Greg Louganis, looking like a clown, was that cable pulling the slack going out of that cable. And it caused me to hit right in the impact zone. And I just got turbulated. And I died down there. I don't know why I'm alive. God knows why I'm alive. So. I didn't know y'all
One final question.
I'm over here, over here.
Okay,
I'm
all
right
right.
back here. First of all, did you have to do any special mental preparation before your stunts? And my next question, which you just answered, is do you believe in a higher power keeping you alive this long? And I don't want your autograph, I would love to give you a hug.
Oh, thank you. Where are you at? No, I don't do any mental preparation. That's wrong. I've been somewhat cavalier about my stunt career. Yeah, I do. I mean, you really think through it. You don't go into it as like a dummy and just say, I can do that. You're not a daredevil. Stuntmen are not daredevils. You try to wring everything out of when you have a concept of a stunt, you try and wring all the chances. I get paid to wring all
Real quick, Terry, before you go on, can somebody kill that mic over here, or this speaker right here? Thank you very much. Go on. Preparation, sorry.
You can't be a daredevil and survive in this business. You've got to have a different mindset than most people. And there's some tremendous athletes in this business. And you go into a stunt trying to eliminate all the things that could go wrong. And you can probably wring out 75% of the chance in the stunt when you're trying to figure it out. But there's always 25% that can reach out and bite you. And every once in a while, it does. It'll get you hurt, and or God forbid, it'll kill you. but nobody goes into a stunt. If you go into a stunt thinking you might get killed, you're doing the wrong thing. You gotta figure another way to do it. If you don't go in with a positive attitude, saying, no, I can get the, we're gonna be able to pull this off, you're in the wrong business. But the thing about stunt work is you don't get a chance to practice. If you're gonna roll a car, they don't say, here's a car, go practice. You gotta know what you're doing the first time out. And a lot of times things do go wrong, and you just hope that when something does go wrong, you've got it figured out that you have an escape route for it. And my escape route was on that waterfall deal. We had 2 aluminum boats in behind the waterfall, had 3 scuba divers from the Bombero department in Durango, Mexico. And I don't have much luck with safety guys. All 6 of them went to Vince, and I'm still under the water. I never came up. So they realized that, hey, Leonard's still underwater. So they came out, and a guy swam out, the first AD saw we were in trouble, and came out and got me. And I tell you what, I was gone. I was history. But, I had it all figured out, but not quite.
But as you said in the video, you got the shot.
Well, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Terry Leonard, he stuck around with us tonight. Thank you so much, man.